we are here back with our panel, with our great fellow friends. We have Esti's back, right? Esti's awesome. Real super mom, I'm telling you. It's awesome. Everyone should yod giret, like we say in Bukhari, right? Learn the lessons from Esti.
Thank you for having me back. Yes,
always,
I had to go pick up the kids, take care of business, came right back.
Awesome. I love that awesomeness. I'm just gonna keep it at that. And then we have our good friend Dr. Fialkoff, who runs a drug. What's the drug organization called again, or the organization? I'm sorry.
Well, actually, there's two.
Okay,
First
go
of all,
ahead.
thank you for having me.
For sure. Thank you for coming.
It's a pleasure. It's called Foundation for a Drug-Free World, and the other one is called Atimefortruthfoundation.
Wow.
Yeah.
Awesome. And then and I think you also have some integration with the UN. I heard. What's that about?
Well, what happens is I've done many different UN conferences. We work with a lot of the groups at the UN, and to really fulfill the purpose, to bring humanity. Life is a miracle, and Dan was talking about his experiences, and I share the same viewpoint, is we really need to appreciate how much we all have, how much we're given, how much humanity collaborates just in this mere room here with how much we have. We have the TV, we have this wonderful food, the farmers who are out there, and I think it's a lot about appreciating. So to me, the United Nations is really a culmination of a summit that's ongoing where we all can come as humanity and just dialogue, just speak openly. And the world at this point is at that really we're at the precipice. We're either going to, go down, or as Dan said, we're going to fly. And I think really something has been happening, and we're getting ready as a human race for all of us to fly.
Love it. Awesome. Flying is always good, the right way.
It's a good thing. When you jump out of the airplane, you want to start flying.
Right. That's for sure. You don't want to stand still. The next guest is my mentor and a person I admire very much, Rabbi Yitzchak Yoshua, the Chief Bukharian Rabbi of America. He is a pillar, the foundation, one of the foundations of our community. He is maybe one of the biggest players of our presence as a Bukharian Jews in Queens. And I remember him when I was young, maybe like 9, 10, going into the 71st synagogue. I don't know why they call it 71st. It's really 70th Avenue. My synagogue is actually on 71st, call it out, by the way, side point, right? and there's a huge warehouse. I remember we were all there. Kodarav, how are you feeling? What's your take? Everything good?
First of all, shalom, and thank you for the invitation. It's beautiful environment over here. And first I will start with you, Rabbi Binyamin. I came here to say thank you to you. You're young, energetic, and you're focused, and you're calling all the time to us to how to help the community. And may God bless you to continue. It's the biggest mission that we came to this world is to be able to help other people. We have a beautiful technology revolution in the world that brings a lot of access to information. We are so accessible. But of course, there is the outcome and all the other things that come from this, and we have to be able to teach and lead and guide our young generation. And if we are going to help even one individual, we made something big in the world. So I'd like to thank everybody who came over here. I was a week ago with Dr. Fialkoff. I was very inspired with the beautiful environment, the people who came from all over the world, all kinds of races and genders and religion, in one hope and one mission, to make our world a safer and better.
Love it. Amen.
He chose the United Nations. I thought to myself, you took all the people together in one building, you wanted to be in peace. But I think it's symbolically, we start in the most vulnerable place in the world, but hopefully we'll make a change. And thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thanks. And then we have Daniel Baldwin again. I just want to mention to everybody, because Daniel's now dressed up with such a beautiful suit and a beautiful shirt. And many people don't know, Daniel is also a pastor. And he is an ordained pastor. And I think that's very befitting of him, because many times, whenever I would talk to Daniel, he would tell me a few things, Rabbi, but think of it this way. Let's go and you know, maybe I'm getting a little bit emotional, but, you know, Daniel many times gives me the right direction to keep on going, both spiritually and physically. And that's what I think we have to learn as a community, to always learn from our friends, our mentors. And Daniel is also a mentor of mine. I do not discriminate on mentors. You know, definitely not, especially a person like Daniel. He's always going to be my rock in many ways. And I appreciate Daniel always, and especially, honestly, from 12 this afternoon, trying to be, you know, set up with us and doing everything with us till now. That man has such stamina. Only, I think, times of old have, and times of new have it, right? And that's awesome, Daniel. I appreciate you. Any remarks? No?
Well, I will tell you, my wife is here now, and she will also reiterate this message. It matters not to me what you believe or who you believe is your God. It matters to me that you have a God in your life. And I say this to Rabbi when we have those moments that are frustrating or that are challenging. And my wife will tell you, I say this to my children, act as if God is standing right next to you with his hand on your shoulder, because he is standing right next to you right now with his hand on your shoulder. So in that faith alone, that the rabbi is a rabbi in the Jewish faith and I'm a pastor in the Christian faith, we both believe that God is standing right next to us with his hand on our shoulder guiding us, and that matters most to me. So for that, I dedicate my time and all that I have to give, because as Rabbi just said, it's about service. It's about making the world a better place and contributing what you can, when you can, to be of service to others. And so that's a model of my life.
Amen. I appreciate that. And then we have a new friend of ours, another Baldwin. We try to get a trifecta Baldwin. We apologize. Hopefully next time we'll be able to add more to the roster, because I think the family is extraordinary. No matter what the issues or the political spectrums are. Listen, not everybody, it's not a secret in the community, not everybody agrees to my ideas per se, right? Let's make that frank and clear. But I like to live in the world of reality. And the reality is we're all human, we're all part of a bigger picture, not a fragment of a tapestry. And I have Jane here, Baldwin. And interesting enough, just shout out to my wife, because without a good wife, you cannot really make success stories happen. And my wife always supports me. I don't know if she's around, but she's an occupational therapist running a rehab center. And she graduated Touro College. And we have an alumni from Touro College, Jane Baldwin, who is the opposite of OT, the PT. So welcome, Jane. Give us an intro.
I'm so happy to be here. Yes, I've been a physical therapist. I graduated from Touro College on Long Island. It was located there. The allied health program was there in the 90s. So I finished with my master's and I've been practicing as a PT since 1991. I've been doing a variety of adults, geriatrics, pediatrics. Currently, I work with elementary school age children with disabilities such as autism, Down syndrome, paraplegia, things like that. Kids, if you're getting PT in school, you usually are
Wow.
relatively involved, let's put it to you that way.
So you work for the DOE at the end?
I work right now for a school district in Syracuse right now.
Wow.
Yes, I have a big caseload, and we all do. OTs, PTs, speech, special education teachers, we work as a team.
So to reiterate again, thank you all who have a busy schedule.
Oh, wait a minute, Rabbi. You have to beg my pardon. Jane is not one that's going to flex or toot her horn, but after her long and illustrious career as a physical therapist, which, by the way, I was the guinea pig that she would bring into her college class to show how messed up I was after all the years of playing football. She'd literally bring me and go, look, his neck doesn't move. Jane was just unanimously voted to be the new director, executive director of my mother's breast cancer research clinic out at Stony Brook University. So congratulations to Jane.
Wow.
Yeah, that
Congrats.
was a recent development. Yeah, I was excited. It's 34 years of PT. That's going to be officially over on June 30th. And on July 1st, I will be stepping into the shoes of executive director of my mom's Breast Cancer Research Foundation, which was started after my mom's initial bout with breast cancer in 1991. She was diagnosed with a fairly aggressive breast cancer and was treated, and she survived that, thank God, and founded her Carol M. Baldwin Breast Cancer Research Fund, which has two separate large divisions, one in upstate New York and one in downstate out of Stony Brook University Hospital. And my mom passed away 3 years ago yesterday, was the anniversary, and Daniel, myself, and my other brothers and sister have really locked arms and decided that we really have to complete the mission she started and help find a cure for breast cancer. It's everywhere. I'm just talking to a friend at the table over there who's touching her family in such a profound way. Everyone knows somebody who's affected by breast cancer. So it's, my mom's gone, and we saw, that we really have to continue the work she started. So I'm going to be finishing up a long, long career. I love PT and I love it. I'll miss it, but I really I'm excited to get started with raising funds for local breast cancer research out in Eastern Long Island.
Amen, amen. And we want to support it. We want to promote it. We want to be part of it every day of every, we want to be a champion for your mother, because I can see, by the way, in Judaism, and then I'm going to go to the rabbi, and then we'll go back to Esty, because Esty is also RN, and we have two doctors, one doctor, one RN, and one spiritual healer, which is Rabbi Yeshua. But I want to just mention in Judaism, there is a concept that a person, you can tell who the mother or parents are based on their kids. And there's no doubt, now seeing you, I think you're the better half of Daniel.
Every time people meet me, they're like, you're my favorite Baldwin.
That's not a giant compliment, by the way, either.
Yeah.
The better half of me.
And I can see it's not so far off that, and I, listen, this makes one of my missions and what I'm trying to do. That, and I always try to teach this to my sons and other kids in my shul, in my community, whoever's willing to listen, that it's so much more important to learn from your parents, your grandparents, and usher it back into your children and instill it. And the character that I can tell you with Daniel and then with just hearing from you is enormous. That you guys are really true to everything you say, everything you do. I feel sometimes I'm not true to what I say sometimes, and I feel like Daniel's better than me in that regard, honestly. It's just how it is. Maybe it's my youth or my youth, right? Maybe it's the youth, or being young or whatever. People think I'm old. My son comes to me and he says, "You're 100 years old, Abba."
Well, that brings me to when I saw you were here, and also I've talked about this with Rabbi Benny before. Besides the fact that I want that coat.
I'll get you.
Besides the fact that I want that, I'm looking at his shoulders thing. I'm probably a little too big for it, but I got to ask you this question. So, with the number of other rabbis and the number of other people in the system, and then all the followers that you in your flock, how are you able to separate your own faith and your own journey when you take on so much responsibility and so much of their issues and so many things? Is that hard for you to separate?
I believe it's one.
It's all one.
God is one. It is next to us.
Right.
And the humanity is one. We people love to have these politics, subtitles, artificial, and the alternative reality. But by the end of the day, if a person comes to this world to help any other person, it's worthwhile to being in his life. The our sage is telling us. So by be part of his journey, you basically continue your journey. It's not, as somebody asked me, if somebody has family with one child or 10 children, do they give more love to one as opposed to 10? So we say, no, it's multiplied. Because this is a spiritual world. But if you say this kind of question, I will go so to introduction. When there is a long sermon, you have to tell stories, short stories. People like and remember the stories.
Mm-hmm.
Many years ago, I was there is a student of mine in Israel And he said, Rabbi Yeshua, there is a very old woman from your community, 90 years old, very poor, live in a very small place next in my house, in our building. Please come speak to her, talk to her. I came to her house, very small studio, no light, no running water, very poor lady. I spoke to her. She said, Rabbi Yeshua, I'm very old and I'm very miserable. She didn't want even to speak, so I blessed her and I left. And then after 1 year, my student, he called me, he said, Rabbi, I want you to come to testify in the court. I said, why? He said, because this lady, she passed away, and I went to her funeral, and there was a lawyer over there, and he took name and addresses. They say, she is a welfare person. He said, no, I represent her. She has $18 million in the account, and whoever come to the funeral will get $100,000 as a check. You say, Rabbi, I sponsored this lady for 10 years. I want now go to get, if there is money, I would like to, and I was wondering a question. When I spoke to her, and she was very miserable and very needy, and she has so much money in the account, why she behave like this? Or did she really believe that she's poor and miserable? And I believe that the alternative reality that we are living in this world, especially with all this beautiful media that create all kind of profiles, which real or not real. And I believe that one of the challenges that I have as a religious leader, a spiritual leader, is to tell them that with all the blessing of this wonderful thing is that it's the alternative reality doesn't make people necessarily happier. And they have to know what is the real thing, as Dr. Fialkoff said, that beautiful room and food and everything. This is something that you can enjoy now. This is one story. Other story that I will say is that about 2 years ago, 11 o'clock at night, I would like to finish my work in the chamber. Somebody came and said, Rabbi, I want to speak to you. My name is Michael. I was 1 year in your school. I went to the public school. I met the wrong people. I am addicted to drugs. The last 15 years, I'm sitting in the home. I don't learn. I'm taking money from my parents. I'm not doing nothing in my life. I'm depressed, and my parents told me tonight they don't want me to be part of their life anymore. So I came to tell Rabbi, I have nothing to do. What should they do? And we had a friend in Brooklyn that they have a yeshiva for this kind of boys, so we sent him over there. And he promised me what he promised me, but it's in his whatever he promised was very question mark. But he came to see me 2 days ago. Thank God he's learning. He's trying to work on his addiction, and he's changing. So I say that if he didn't find me at 11 o'clock at night, what would happen to Michael? And when Rabbi Binyamin told me that he wants to make the forum to use this wonderful media for the purpose of helping other people, it's a win-win situation. And the short introduction, when I was in the United Nations a week ago with the Honorable Dr. Bernard's Dov Berl, and I see the beautiful gathering over there, and I saw many people from all kinds of races and from all over the world talking about what should be done to give the kids, to use what we have and all the resources to give life, guidance, and direction. And I believe that what every person in this forum and those who are the guests that are coming, we are a part of a huge operation, and for God is a continuous of our journey. So, Dr. Bernard.
Absolutely. It's an honor to be here, and it's important to fulfill the purpose of this conference to this podcast, to mention a few things. They're vital because what's the future of our world but our kids? What the future of our families? Why do we really work so hard? Why do we get in Jewish words and naches, and such good feeling when our families do things? And so it's important to protect them, but with some alarming facts. And one is that 113,000 Americans died in 2023 from illicit drugs. And to give that some kind of perspective, you know, I was a teenager during the Vietnam War. There were a lot of protests in our country. In that 10-year Vietnam War, we lost 58,000 American boys, men, 58,000, 10 years. So if you were to take 113,000 drug deaths and multiply that by 10, you would get 1,113,000 American deaths to compare to a 58,000 American war in Vietnam. And we go, well, it's interesting. Why is it that we don't have protests? Why is it that we don't see that on national TV? And as a doctor, because I'm actually a doctor, surgeon of 44 years here in New York City, I'll give you a very simple answer. One of the side effects of a drug society or a drug person is that they don't recognize what is actually occurring. So even though the 60s were a psychedelic revolution, you know, or Jimi Hendrix, you know, Cheech and Chong with their shows with the marijuana, in reality at that point the effect of the drugs was much less in our country. And it seems like our country has been dulled down, so now we're losing tremendously higher, 20 times higher, and yet there's no response. So that's what's alarming, but it's important to realize that when we educate our kids before 21 years of age, and we educate them on the scientific truth of drugs, not the philosophy, and I'll give you some facts in a moment, then what happens is we protect them before 21 years of age. Something that's very important to understand as a statistic is that after 21, for the rest of their lives, almost 99% will never touch a drug, will never go through any kind of dependency or problem. And you know, drugs are associated with violence, so the violent rate would drop, the gender violence would drop, and the production of the country would increase, because when we're on drugs or we're utilizing drugs, obviously what are we doing? We're not producing. So it solves a lot of things, but more importantly, what it solves is the future of our families. Because, you know, we talk about numbers, but I always like to point out that when you lose your son, which happened to one of my very good friends, who's actually a very high official in New York City. And this person, I'll keep it neuter so you don't know who it is, lost their son. The son was 25 years of age, and he died of a drug overdose. And the irony is that this person was in charge of a program to decrease that. And the person said to me, you know, Dr. Fialkoff, we need to do much more. We're really not doing anything. We need to do something. I lost my son, and it's too late for me to wake up, but we need to wake other people up. I don't want them to go through that agony. So it's important to realize that, and that we need to do something. It's also important to realize the state of our country, because if people are happy, what are they not going to need? They're probably not going to need psychotropic drugs, psychiatric drugs. But how many Americans in the United States are on psychotropic drugs, psychiatric drugs? 76 million. Wow. 76 million Americans are on some form of psychotropic drug. I said, my Lord, this is horrific. So that shows that we're not happy. And at the end of my few minutes here, I'm going to tell you something that's going to be wonderful from the U.S. Surgeon General, but I want to give you some last facts. Because vaping seems innocuous. Vaping was a supposed solution for cigarette smoking. Vaping actually, just the flavoring, causes what's called popcorn lung. Scientifically, it's called bronchiolitis obliterans. What it means is it obliterates your bronchial passages, you can't breathe, and many teenagers have died across the country. That's just from vaping the flavoring. The flavoring is called diacetyl. It's something that was in butter-flavored popcorn when you used to go to Blockbuster, buy your popcorn with the videos showing my age. We went back. Well, those workers developed popcorn lung, and they were very sick. Now, the flavorings, 99% from the CDC, have nicotine. What is the significance? Well, what happens is the nicotine, when it's inhaled by that young person, goes up to their brain, and it releases dopamine. When you release dopamine, is releasing it through the vape. So now when they don't vape, they become dependent the body craves the dopamine, the young person doesn't feel well, but the young person thinks, well, I just like the flavoring. I just like the vape, Dad. You know, just chill out, Dad, you know, because I just like the flavoring. In reality, they don't realize that they become addicted to the nicotine. Now, one more fact. From 13 years of age to 25 years of age, our young people, their brain is developing. But if you take nicotine, irreversible damage happens to the brain from 13 years to 25 years of age. So even if they give up vaping when they say, well, Dad, don't worry about it, Mom, I'm going to give it up when I'm 30, they'll never reverse. So we have a whole future population that will never reach the intelligence quotient or ability or achievement that they could have done. I'll give you another fact from the New England Journal of Medicine. Those kids that vape, 50% will go on to take marijuana. You say, well, what's so bad about marijuana? Well, marijuana in a young person, as in nicotine, has the same effect on the developing brain. This is based on the Journal of American Medical Association. I like to give all the scientific basis because otherwise it becomes philosophies. So that's very important to see, because then what happens is those marijuana users actually is a gateway from the CDC NIH to opioids, which is what we're trying to eliminate. Now, I'll give you a solution at the end here, and then I'm going to give over to the other speakers up here. I don't want to monopolize, but it's important to get this out, and Roman wanted me to get this out. The U.S. Surgeon General came out with an advisory, very important, last year. And what he showed scientifically is a solution to all of this. And you're going to be amazed at it. And Dan will say absolutely, and the rabbi will say absolutely. The Surgeon General showed scientifically, through epidemiological studies, that our social interaction, that means speaking to each other, was responsible for whether or not we became physically ill or stayed healthy. And the effect of a lack of social interaction was the same as smoking 15 cigarettes a day, increasing the death rate, not from taking a drug, but from not having a social interaction, from being on a cell phone and not having a live interaction. And so it's really so important to get this out, because why? Because we don't have to do anything more than what you're doing with your kids. And what you're doing with your kids is actually making them emotionally healthy, mentally stable, but something that we never even realized is they're now physically not going to get sick. They won't have cardiac disease, diabetes, whatever. And what's the significance of that is very simple, that we were going over in the morning, right? And you were going over, you were right on point, is that if they don't get sick, they'll be healthy, our country will be happier, will be more productive. And in reality, people say, oh my God, well, will that affect the economy? Yes, it will. It'll go straight up and vertical. And we can be the example for the world that we set in America, that we start to communicate. We still use cell phones, but we communicate with each other. So, you know, I don't want to monopolize, but I think that was a very important fact, because if you really look at it, it's really the basis of all religion. And I'll end on this. My friend Lev said to me, I was talking to him one day, and I said, you know, Lev, when I was young, I was going to be a rabbi. I went to the yeshiva. And he goes, yeah. I said, but you know, I decided I would become a doctor. And I like doing my drug education program. He goes, I know. So he says to me, so why do you think that you're not a rabbi? I said, well, because I didn't do the formal training. And he goes to me, no. And this pertains, I think, to all of us out there who are watching this on this show, whether you're a man or a woman. You know, I don't think there's any discrimination or lack of ability to do so. He said, you are a rabbi. And as Dan said, he's a rabbi. Well, he's a priest. We're all rabbis and priests because we're helping each other. And so I said, wow, my mother's going to be really happy. Do Beryl Bernardo is a rabbi. There you go.
Esty?
So you didn't monopolize at all. It's actually incredibly important that you brought this up. There's only one thing that you did, and you did touch up on it. You said cell phones. There's only one thing really that we didn't dive into, and that's really the implications of social media, and how with every scroll, with every single time this kid sees a like or his friend writes a comment, they get that same hit of dopamine, because that is a hit of validation. Now, what happens to a society that is hyper-focused on all of their validation on social media? They are set up for failure and disappointment. with this scrolling, with this social media, you also have to worry about what they're being exposed to. You have to now worry about your children being exposed to a hidden agenda by the Chinese Communist Party. And that is a real thing, because guess what happens on TikTok? Everything is algorithm based. And I'm talking to you from a creator's perspective. I've been a content creator for 5 years, even though I'm a nurse. That's something that I just got into full time. And what I've noticed is that every single platform, all of their algorithms differ. And with TikTok primarily, they are pushing out actual poison on the youth of America. They are pushing out men should be women and women should be children. They're encouraging a lot of the pro-Hamas propaganda. They're purposely funneling that kind of information to create more and more chaos on US soil. And this is all stemming from our younger generations who are being poisoned by not only propaganda, but this fake world that they're comparing themselves with. And it becomes this vicious cycle. Like Doctor mentioned, there has to be happiness. You know, when we grew up, and the reason why I'm mentioning all of this, it goes back full circle. When I was growing up, I was 4 years old when we came here. We had such a strong community that even though our parents told us, they forced us to assimilate. They said, you speak English now. That's it. No more mama, papa. You know, I want korochan. You speak English now. But what ended up happening is we actually assimilated so quickly to the language and even to some of the customs, to the clothing, that our parents all veered us back. And I know that I'm not the only one thinking this. They said, okay, from now on, there's only Russian at home. Every Friday you come home, you help your mother with Shabbos. Holidays, it's a non-negotiation. You sit with your family. And we had such a strong, powerful community that this was integrated from every corner, even though we did go to public school, some of us, because our parents at the time, maybe they couldn't afford a yeshiva education. But we had the Baharian Teen Lounge. And that is what kept personally me and my friends off the streets. And every single one of us that went to this lounge from the age of 11 years old all the way up to 17 for me personally, when then I went on and started actually even working there for a little while. But all of us, we have all graduated and all become professionals. All of us got married. All of us have good home values. And I really do feel like that's because we didn't have this toxic culture that is, you know, compare and contrast. Look who looks prettier. Everything is filtered. Everything is fake. These poor kids, they have no self-worth at the end of the day. They have no self-worth. What are they going to turn to? They're going to turn to drugs. They're going to turn to stuff that's going to make them feel good. They're going to turn to their friend because mom and dad can't understand the way the world is. There's bullying to consider today. There's kids killing themselves. So not to turn it like a dark corner, but this is very important that community, having community is one of the strongest foundations that a child, for them to succeed, will have. That's all I wanted to say.
I want to,
Nice.
we're going to have to...
Rabbi?
Yeah, Kvod Rabbi Chavod, and then I'll
There is
conclude.
a law that the grass of your neighbor is greener, even though it doesn't have grass to begin with. I remember a month ago, a couple which I married them off a few years ago, they went to the Bahamas. And they sent me a picture to the social networks. They're sitting in a nice restaurant, drinking beer together. And then I get a phone call from the airport that she ran away, and the police over there, and they're fighting, and they came to... But on the social networks, they are celebrating. It's beautiful. And then when they came to me, it took a long time to heal the situation. So as they say beautifully, we created something that should help us, but sometimes it's become, it's
right.
controlling us. Thank you. God bless you for this beautiful word.
Definitely. Thank you, Esty, as well. Thank you, Doctor. Thank you, Rabbi Yeshua, Daniel, and Jane. I want to mention something. I want to conclude first with special thanks to Damakel Elagio. We're going to continue with the ceremony after this event with Ilya Zvulunov. Thank you again for everything you've done. You and your team here are impeccable. They do great work. We appreciate letting us host here at Damakel Elagio any events, corporate, dinners, weddings, bar mitzvahs, are available here. You see how we set up everything with the back screen. It's all available, guys. It's awesome. In addition, I would like to special thanks with our minimal batter, Roman Kaikov from Kaikov Media and his whole team for doing an excellent job with all adversity. He is be'emet, a new friend. And you know how I know he's a friend? That he takes my crap and he, excuse my language, and still works with me. So that's how I know this guy is a true friend, really a true friend. I want to tell you a small story, and of course, special thanks to everybody again. And this is about what Dr. Fialkoff said, what Daniel said, and we had a podcast with Daniel in December. By the way, It's another gratitude I have to give him. I say, Daniel, can you come for a podcast? Sure, Rabbi, when am I coming? You know, and I have to not just thank Daniel, by the way. I have to thank Deasia, you know, because Deasia can say, no, you're my husband, you're not going nowhere. I want you all for myself. And she has every right to do that. And I have to, no, it's true, it's true. And I have to thank Avis and Finn. I have to thank them. Bat, I can't really thank him. I don't think he really knows what's going on yet, right? But I think he knows he's missing his daddy.
You better stick with thanking Deasia.
I'm just kidding.
There's where your money is.
Yeah. I'm trying to beef up the situation. Yeah. So I want to just tell you a small story, how important social media is, how important technology is, and how important religion is. Religion is not to die for; it's to live for. We have a mutual rabbi, Rabbi Yeshua, and I, named Rabbi Eliyahu Abergil. He's the chief rabbinical judge, former chief rabbinical judge of all Jerusalem. So for you to understand, to become a rabbinical judge in Israel, it's a forearm of the government. And he has power of the government, 40 years, rabbinical judge, solving problems in Israel and Jewish issues in Israel. During COVID, he wrote a responsa, which is a formula of halachic ruling, Judaic law ruling. What do you do during COVID on a holiday where a grandparent cannot see his grandchildren? And he said, if you leave the digital Skype on Erev Passover, the eve of Passover, and just let it be on for the grandfather or grandparent or whoever it is to just converse with the grandkids on Passover, because he can't go visit the grandkids on Passover. One of his students, he told me, came to him and he started attacking his rabbi, which is my rabbi, Rabbi Bergil. And he says, listen carefully. You should stop this, retract this law, retract this Judaic ruling. This is not appropriate. It's going to cause a lot of problems. He said, listen carefully. Very rare a rabbi who knows what he knows goes back on his word or back on his ruling. After Passover, this student came to the Rabbi Bergil and he said, I have sinned before you, Rabbi. My father committed suicide because he couldn't be Passover night. He says, if I only did the Skype, my father will be alive today. This is a lesson learned, and this is what this reminded me, and it's all because of you, doctor, because you said the study, how interacting even in FaceTime, even in social media, this is one of the reasons why we're doing this chat app, one of the reasons why it's so important, and I put it in the Bukharian chat group, 2.8 million people, directly or indirectly, have prevented from drug overdose, or drug abuse, or even suicide by just communicating with a call center. And we're trying to digitalize this call center, and I appreciate everybody for coming. And the next segment of awards is going to come. We're going to have dinner and play the last
Rabbi
30 minutes
Benny,
of
you know, I'm
each
sorry to
Muhammad's video.
interrupt
Go ahead.
you. I think it's important for them to know this.
Sure.
If you need to get a booklet, these are free in 22 languages, and it's drug education. So you can get it, drugfreeworld.org, and it's for you. I thought it's important to get that out because what you said
Definitely, agreed.
is, you know, and don't force it on your kids. Just throw it on the tabletop. Make, you know, like you just put it there, and they happen to come across it. Let them just see it on their own.
I want to just add, because in listening to these scholars speak, I wanted to add two things. Number one, I want you to think about this for a minute. In 2010, drug overdoses were not in the top 20 of causes of death in the United States, ages 1 through 50. Not even in the top 20. In 2025, 15 years later, drug overdoses are the #1 cause of death in the United States, ages 1 through 50. Not on the chart 15 years ago, #1 cause of death. So if you don't think we have a terrifying problem right now, let that resonate with you. Cancer, heart attacks, strokes, #1 cause of death. And for the men out there who are good dads, I mean no offense to you when I say this next thing. I ask when I do my work with addicts, and I go in, and I'm going to try to get them to go to rehab. I'm doing the intervention. And I pull the mother aside and I say, is your son or daughter acting different? Is there a problem? Because a mother knows. A mother always knows. Dad's out there making a living. Dad's out there doing stuff. He sees changes when it gets bad. But mom knows even the littlest nuances. If she was that stay-home mom, she knows something's wrong. So I never look to the dad. I never look to the girlfriend, the boss, whatever. I look the mother right in the eye and I go, is he okay? And she goes, no, something's wrong. And the mom knows. So listen carefully to the mom when she says something's wrong with our son or daughter, and then reach out and get the help, because we're here to help you.
Amen.
That's what this is about.
Amen. Thank you, guys. Thank you. We'll be back after.
God bless.
Yeah. Last 20 minutes, right?
Great point.